I suppose, it being January the 1st, a Happy New Year is in order, John.
Thank you. Same to you.
Well, thank you. Well, as to what constitutes exactly a Happy New Year remains to be seen. For some, it's full of optimism. For those of us who are older, perhaps less so as the clock's ticking, eh?
I'm inclined to take you up on that, Phil, because, well, it just needs a bit of careful considering this thing. Optimism about what? And this, of course, is the nub of the whole of the subject that we're constantly referring to. The nature of man. One part which is inevitably doomed to death, and another part which, if we have prepared ourselves, is destined to not to die. So on the one hand, if you see death as a bad thing, which no reason to consider it as bad, it couldn't be more natural. It happens to everything. Every year, every autumn, the whole nature dies down. It's perfectly natural phenomenon, but of course, to some people, it is a cause for pessimism, as indeed what's happening to the whole world now, this threat of the world dying in its normal functions. But on the other hand, there is, if you got your focus on eternity and man's eternal nature, then the worry goes out of the situation, and you're standing on a undying, on a infallible rock. So, like so many of these philosophical questions, it depends what you mean.
I only said Happy New Year.
It's these sort of casual throwouts can give rise to much else. That's why a lot of people find it easier just to say Happy New Year and get on with it.
should have taken that.
Why it all falls to pieces around them a day or two later when all the jollity is over. You get post-party depression.
I used to have a vintage sampler framed above the bed where I used to live. And it was the happy verses from Ecclesiastes, chapter 12, and I'm going to give it a go, John. Instead of just simply reading it out in my voice, I'm going to try and play this and see if it picks it up. See if you can get the drift. This is a recording from the Bible Gateway online, and it's read by Max McLean.
Ecclesiastes 12. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. While the sun, or the light, or the moon, or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain.
I think that's enough of that. It wasn't that much on the sampler.
Well, actually, that takes the wind out of my sails, because I thought you were going to read me a modern translation, which I was sent this morning, and I read it, and I was appalled, really, at both the bad English of it and the lack of any sort of poetry in it. And I remembered this old translation, which I'd been brought up with, called this from the King James Bible, which, of course, has infinitely more, to my mind, depth of meaning and beauty in the passage. So,
well, would you be kind enough to read it for us then, John, from your version?
I will indeed. I've got it in front of me now. I have to put my specs on. I've got them on, haven't I? All right. Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them. When the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, nor the clouds return after the rain. I've known that all my life since I was a little boy. I was always thrilled by it.
He doesn't sound like the life and soul of the party, our Mr. Ecclesiastes.
I remember when I was 26 and was thinking of leaving my father's business and going off to South America, I went with a pal up to Edinburgh. And we went up to Edinburgh Castle. And I remember we were so young and strong then, we ran 2 or 3 at a time all the way up those steps. And of course, you know, thought nothing of the poor old people plodding up with their sticks on 1 step at a time. Anyway, we went into the chapel at Edinburgh Castle and the Bible was open. And at this passage, and we read this, these words, remember how to go now, thy Creator in the days of thy youth. And we thought that was meant for us. That was a signal to us that we should go off to South America and do our duty to save the world out there. Of course, my pal didn't come, so I had to go out on my own, but that's another story. But anyway, I've known this passage for many years.
I quite like the idea of a around the world trip, John, by reading the open page of the Bible wherever you happen to land next. That's quite a good idea. That's traveling by faith. You've got a few years on me, but we were on our walk yesterday, just coming back over the bridge. We reflected on that verse a little bit, yes. And I think it would be fair to say you were not in the best of optimistic moods yesterday, John. The days of your youth being long gone.
Well, in a certain sense they are, but you know, in the real sense, Phil, and I can assure you this is absolute truth, that in another sense, I'm not only, well, strictly speaking, I'm not actually younger, but I'm certainly not any older because I am ageless. This is the great discovery, you see, when you, and this is what I mean by cause for optimism, even in this world of dying out, is that man's true nature is beyond time and space in spirit, which is, of course, ageless. And this is the significance of I am, not I am an old man of 84 years old, but I am, stop, I am. And this is what self-realization and spiritual work is all about, to realize the reality of what I am or what one is, because I am is singular, it's undivided. This pure being, pure consciousness, which is the true spiritual nature of man.
It's a puzzle to me, John, in all my years, 20 plus years in the evangelical church, very happily in the evangelical church, this emphasis on the I am was, as far as I can, maybe I wasn't paying attention in all the sermons, but I don't remember anybody preaching or emphasizing the I am of Jesus.
Well, neither to me, Phil. I had my 10 years of compulsory chapel at school, and no, trying to think, I'm not sure I've ever heard any reference to it in any church service I've ever been to. It somehow hasn't, yes, it's very odd, really. It wasn't until I went, I'm not sure where I picked it up from. I think it just became increasingly obvious to me, just a matter of common sense, I think, just observation.
Yes, me too. There's a favorite verse that the evangelicals in particular like to quote for good reason, where Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life.
Yes.
And that seems to be fairly straightforward, fairly uncontroversial. He's speaking about himself, but actually, I don't know where I got this from. I don't think I think I have made it up. Perhaps I've not read the Greek or the Aramaic, but if you just insert one little word, it's, for me, makes everything clear and transforms it. Jesus says, I am is the way, the truth, and the life. And that seems, as you say, perfectly common sense to me now.
Yes. Interesting, isn't it, how we all approach these things differently, yet come to the same conclusion, hopefully.
It seems to me that Jesus was inviting everybody to participate in the kingdom of God, which he demonstrated as the I am, or the I amness of God. That seems to be my more recent understanding. Are we getting too theological for you, John?
You know me pretty well, don't you, Phil? Yes, I'm a bit shy of getting into these waters. I'm not sure that, our minds work rather differently, don't they? And you like to come up with these answers, and I don't really. But I don't look for answers in the same way.
Well, let's get back to your favorite feet on the ground, and nature is your teacher. So
I have something that's relevant, because I just live in a little flat now, and there are 4 window boxes, just 1, 2, 3, and 1 in the next room. And this morning, January the 1st, I looked, and there on the earth, guess what?
what?
The first tiny little green shoots of the first bulbs that I planted in the autumn. And that brought me a big smile. I thought, that's my New Year message to everybody, that whatever happens in this puzzling world, whether you find answers to it or not, beloved nature pops up her little green shoots each spring. Life goes on, doesn't it?
Yes, I don't think the trees and the flowers make New Year resolutions, do they, John?
They just get on with it, don't they? Put out fresh buds, fresh leaves each year. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. It seems to be a peculiarly human trait to need to have some sort of plan for the future, rather than nature and animals perhaps being content in the moment.
Well, yes. Well, one thing I can tell you is that now in old age, I don't have any plan for any future. And I don't have much regret for the past either, because I have learned to live pretty much in the present. And in the present, there is a choice to be or not to be. That's why Shakespeare said, to be or not to be. To be, in other words, this transitory mortal doomed to die, or to be this eternal spiritual person. And you can just look at me. Anybody can look at me. You can see my old body sitting here rather slumped in the chair of an old man with grey hair. And if you look more carefully into my eyes, beyond the rather dullness of old age, you'll find a light shining. And that light does not diminish, does it? Light does not grow old. Light. What does God is light, they say. I am the light of the world. It's another of Jesus' sayings, I think, doesn't it? Light.
Specifically,
Yeah.
John, Jesus does actually say, you are the light.
Yes, and there's a sweet little children's poem I love so much. You know, it goes, how does it go? Jesus bids us shine with a pure, clear light, like a little candle burning in the night. In this world of darkness, we must shine, you in your small corner and I in mine. And that to me sums up the whole duty of man, what it's all about. There is light, there is darkness. Yes, of course there's darkness, but there's light. Depends which we put first. That is the decision. So that's my message to you this New Year's Eve. God bless you all.